Welcome everyone to the Career Chat Show with me, Yanmo. Today's chat show, what we're going to be discussing, that individual at work that is overwhelmed, overworked, and underpaid, and they don't know what to do. I will be helping you to come up with strategies of how to cope and what you should do in your workplace. So oftentimes you get this job, you love the organization, you love your team members, everything is going all splendidly well, and then your boss starts to add tasks to your existing task. Initially, it starts with maybe one or two extra tasks and it's fine. But over a period of time, you realize that these tasks have now become a thing. And it's too much for you to cope with, it's overwhelming you, and you feel that you should actually start getting paid for this additional work that is being added to you. Now, what I will say is that there is a thin line between doing extra work because you are proactive, doing extra work because you want to show that you have a can-do attitude and you want to help out. But when the extra work is now overwhelming you and it's making you feel overworked, then there is an issue. So what do? The very first thing you have to do is you have to prioritize your task. You know what you have been recruited for, and make sure that your deliverables every single week are clear. You have to prioritize your task. If your boss says that he or she wants you to prioritize those tasks above the tasks that you're already working on, you need to ensure that you tell your boss that if I prioritize the tasks that he or she is giving to you, then your deliverables for that week is going to suffer. You have to speak up. You have to speak up, because most people get to a point where they are overworked and overwhelmed because they never speak up. So the very first thing you want to do is, so that you don't get to a place where you're overwhelmed and overworked going forward, is you have to speak up and you have to tell your boss that if you prioritize his tasks over the deliverables that you have for that week, then something's gonna have to give. I remember I worked at an organization, and my boss was a very last minute boss. So what do I mean by that? He would come up with ideas, and he says to me, "Oh, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to do this." And I'm thinking, I'm already working on A, B, C, D, and E. You can see I'm working on these things because I actually used to sit next to him until I decided not to sit next to him anymore. But that's a story for another time. And I would let him know that I already have all of these tasks that I was working on. And he would insist that what he wanted me to do was priority. So I would stop and I would ask him, is it important or is it urgent? I would ask him, is it important or is it urgent? Many people do not feel confident enough to actually ask their bosses that question. Is it important or is it urgent? It may be important, it may be urgent to your boss. It doesn't mean that it's important to your deliverables. Remember, ultimately, you have a list of deliverables that you have to deliver on. So speak to your boss about it. Now, I'm not saying you should be rude, you should be arrogant, but let your boss know that if you take on the task or the responsibilities that he's asking you to take on, something will have to give. So that's really, really important. And because I would say to my boss, is it urgent or is it important? In a few weeks' time, he would come to me and he would say to me, this is actually important. This is actually important. And we actually would laugh about it. But the point I'm making is that you have to prioritize your task, and you also need to let your boss know that if you prioritize their task over what you have, there is something will just have to give. The other thing is you need to set boundaries in your one-to-ones with your boss, or in your one-to-one with your boss. You need to say, this is the boundaries that you're willing to work within, right? This is what you can do. These are your expectations for the week. These are your deliverables for the week. Anything over and above that, you are unable to do it, or else you're going to have to reschedule things. So setting boundaries by communicating with your boss what you are able to do and what you're not able to do. And also, if you're at a place where you're able to delegate, I would also tell you to delegate. So delegate some of your own responsibilities to team members, so that you can actually take on some of the tasks that your boss is asking you to take on. And then you have to learn to manage your time effectively, and then also communicate. Now, failing all of those things, right? If you're still feeling overwhelmed and you're still feeling overworked, then you have to sit down with your boss, have a conversation with him or her, and say, listen, this is happening. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling, there's burnout that is happening right now. And burnout is a huge thing in organizations where people are just working because their bosses and many bosses lack emotional intelligence. They don't realize that they're putting a lot on their staff members, and they're asking for a lot. So have the conversation. Many people don't have that conversation because they are just not confident. Many people don't have the conversation because they think, oh, if I have a conversation with my boss, I may lose my job. Let me tell you something. Your health, your well-being is so much more important than the job that you are working on. Should anything happen to you, God forbid, that organization is going to carry on. Your boss may not even come to your funeral or even come to visit you in hospital. So it's very, very important that you be the CEO of your career. Take charge for yourself, right? If you don't know how to speak to your boss, then what I will say is you need to just, find ways of communicating with your boss. Even if it means just having a coffee. It doesn't have to be a very formal thing, because sometimes when it's very formal, it can be very, very daunting and very, very scary, right? And if you don't have a good working relationship with your boss, ultimately, you should be looking at either changing teams, changing projects, or even exiting the organization at the end of the day. But you have to literally go through these steps to help you so you are not overworked, you are not overwhelmed, and you are not underpaid. I always suggest and encourage people to go over and beyond what their job is requiring of them. However, when it starts to become too much for you. So that said, when it starts becoming too much for you, have the conversation with your boss. Let them know that this is draining you, it's overwhelming you, you're struggling, things, you're not working at optimal level anymore, and that is not good enough. So that's what I would say. If you have found yourself in any situation where you have been overworked, overwhelmed, let me know what you did to get yourself out of those situations. Leave some comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video is uploaded. So I hope that helps you. Like I always say, be the CEO of your career, and that means that you're taking charge of yourself. Don't be afraid to speak up. A closed mouth is a closed destiny. Don't be afraid to speak up, right? It's all about you. It's not about your boss. It's not about the organization. It's all about you. If you are good, the organization will be good. If you are not good, so I hope you found that helpful. Until the next show, God bless you. Bye.